And while they did prove the moon is a lot less dense, it wasn't as wildly dense or ringing like a bell as the Apollo mission suggested. So, little science there for you. The rocks they brought back from the moon are highly magmatized, which is really weird, which only happens generally from the core of a planet rotating and doing some stuff. And if it's strong enough, it will magnetize a lot of the rocks. But our current scientists didn't think the core of the moon was strong enough to do that. So why are these rocks magnetized? I mean, the astronauts had a hard time digging into it. It was like titanium, like right in the surface. The moon is super bizarre. Okay, so now this is the fun
why
stuff.
everyone's trying to? That's why everyone's trying to mine the moon. China, Russia, United States. I mean, they're just finding more reasons to go up there and dig around because the
probably
mineral
$1 trillion
makeup is
business.
so unique. Yeah.
Didn't they also suggest that the depth of the dust on the moon or the dirt on the moon is pretty level all the way around it? Like there's each one of the craters only go to a certain depth. They don't go any further. Isn't there something about that
That's weird.
too?
I've actually never read that.
About that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
That's strange.
I don't think I made it up. I'm pretty sure I didn't make it up. But
Are you
Don't worry,
sure?
I'm not going to fact check you, buddy.
yeah.
This isn't CNN.
Let's believe
Don't
it.
worry about it.
All right. Okay, so
right, well,
Josh, tell us.
Yes.
Tell us.
All right, so I found this book. I was looking for some new shit, some shit I haven't heard before, and I fell into remote viewing the moon somehow, and I came across a book called A Psychic Voyage to the Moon, Remote Viewing the Secrets of Earth's Nearest Neighbor. This is from the Annapolis Remote Viewing Group. This came out in 2015. It's anonymous besides that. Like, there's no real names in this, so, super reliable. Before I jump in, for the 101 crowd, what is remote viewing? That's the ability in meditative states to see any place or time or event in any time or place. And it's been kind of proven, I think, beyond a reasonable doubt now with all the information that's come out about the government studying it, but that's a different conversation. So, this is what this team thought of. This is what this team did. As we know, remote viewing, the people who are doing it, they had like 3 to 5 of them doing it, don't know what they're looking at. They're just given like a random set of numbers. And this is what they started to come up with. This is some of the things they started to say right away. Gravel under my feet, black round stones. And remote viewing, they sketch it, they feel it, they can sense it, but they usually write out things and draw things. There was a breeze, small wispy clouds, forest of rocks, caustic smell, low-pitched moaning. They said crystal forest, basically a lot of stuff that was very earth, was very moon, typical moon, like nothing that crazy. Crystal forest sounds crazy, but you can see how that could be interpreted as just walking across the moon. But then, after a while, the third guy started saying some crazy shit. Let me read you what he said.
Go on.
The third, he said, hundreds of men, all naked, seeming to tending a greenhouse or an arboretum. I think I said that right. Sunlight
or
from
a
above.
hangar with a ship in it. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, no, it could be. Sunlight from above, but artificial light from every direction inside a giant hall. Larger than Grand Central Station. Warm, pleasant air. Vegetation everywhere. The men are thin but are muscular. Seem to be human, but not 100%. Communicating without words. He was picking up on telepathy. They were aware of his presence, and they told me it was time to go. Okay, so the session ended. They were all kind of blown away. 2 people kind of described the surface of the moon. The third guy obviously was underground. They kind of picked up on that, and they were like, okay, that was interesting. Why don't we just look underground instead? And because there's nothing really on the surface. And that will go along with why these pictures aren't really, convincing of structures in the dark side of the moon, because everything is underground. So they regroup and they refocus. And they go deeper, and this is what they found. They found human-looking beings, bluish, naked a lot. For some reason, everyone's naked. They're just always naked. The temperature must be perfect for them. They have living spaces. They saw children. Why? Yeah, I know. Everyone's perfect, too. Yeah. So they saw children in classes playing with like these interesting robots that are hard to describe. They ate communally, just basic like stuff like any other, I guess, human-like beings would do. They ate around. They ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of kale-like shit. There was something interesting. Oh, yeah, they played with... they noticed that... Okay, let me get to this. There was a zoo, and there was crystals that lit up the zoo, kind of like giving ambient light. And there was an underground cavern with wild animals and all sorts of plants. But it got deeper. They started to go deeper, and they kind of described this place as Amazonia. They found this gigantic cavern with all these like nude women, all women for some reason, operating these gigantic machines that were half real and half virtual reality. ever seen
What?
the movie? Have you ever seen the movie Valerian? That came out, Luc Besson's
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
like 5 years ago. Fucking awesome movie. There's a scene in that where they're in between worlds with like they're shopping somewhere, but they're in another world and they like
Oh, yeah.
have virtual reality devices on. It's something like that, I imagine, which is just really, really interesting. So they were down below doing whatever they're doing in that cavern, but there was tons and tons of vegetation and wild animals and dangerous animals and all sorts of shit going on. But then
This is
suddenly
all
they all
underground in the moon? This is all underground?
all
in the moon?
underground in the moon. All underground in the moon. So then, all three of these people, there's like, I think 5 of them total, remote viewing, all at the same time here, seen enough, and they all hear the words at the same time in their head, in their mind's eye. And at the same time, all of them are presented with this slightly bluish, naked, human-looking woman, and they had an interaction with her for the next 5 hours. That was all not
What does that
dirty.
mean?
Not dirty.
Okay.
They communicated. They didn't have any relations. They were just talking. But basically, they ended up calling her Lady
It's more
Luna.
of a lap
just 'cause
dance, no
why
touching.
not? Yeah, I mean, her name was Lady Luna. It sounds a little strippery, you know.
Yeah, that totally does. Does she have sparkles?
Tassels.
Yeah, for this story, she definitely does.
Okay, she has sparkles.
And she had a pony. She had a ponytail too.
Apple bottom
double
jeans,
ponies.
boots with the fur.
I'm dancing.
She hit the floor. Okay, so what happened next?
All right, so what does Lady Luna say? Of course, they ask a bunch of different questions. One, they give a brief overview of history, saying that there was alien overlords that created humans, and about 12,000 years ago, during the Great Deluge, when, as Graham Hancock likes to say, those asteroids struck the North American ice sheet and caused a biblical flood. So these overlord aliens had already left for complex reasons I'm not going to get into, but then humans split. The Ark, or what people think the story of the Ark is related to this event, but it's their Ark they took to the moon to live. They had advanced technology at that point that all got wiped out by this giant flood. But these humans are just like us, 100% like us at the time, left the Earth in some sort of ship, obviously, went to the moon and created their own space that was already kind of built there from a long time ago, and they inhabited it and blew it out for themselves. They left on an ark with plants and animals and a bunch of different shit, just like the biblical story, and arrived
Noah's
on
Ark.
the moon. So they've been up there
Okay.
for 12,000 years. Now they're kind of blue for whatever reason. I guess that happens when you live underground on the moon. And they're talking.
They don't have tanning beds?
Not yet. They're still working on that.
Okay.
So-
all right. So this is basically like Atlantis. This is like a group from Atlantis that left the planet when everything fell apart. Because that's
Yeah,
about
basically,
12,000 years
yeah.
ago. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think they're getting at here. She goes on to say a couple other things, but I think the most important stuff is that they live much longer up there for some reason. Down here, because of bacteria. It got really complicated, and I got annoyed, and it got detailed, and I wasn't into it, so I just stopped reading about it. But this is the cool thing I want to leave it with.
You're so over pandemics. You're over it. You're like, I don't want to get into it.
I'm over it. 2020, go away. So this is the one thing they thought was cool in the end. They said, one, they're naturally telepathic, and we are too, but that was suppressed for a long time. And that they asked her, is there any caverns on Earth? Are you guys here too? Did you go underground on Earth? And they said, no, humans can't survive deep underground, or deep enough to survive that flood. They couldn't do it. But there are reptilians down there. There are a reptilian-looking species that's separate from the ones that, or like the species that created us. This is a different species living on the Earth.
Holy
There's
shit.
reptilian. They're the demons. They're what everyone talks about when they think about demons.
This
It's
story's
hellish
got
down
one
there.
twist after the next. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, and then the next questions are like typical. That's the end. That's all as far as I want to go. But the next questions are like typical, like humanity has two enemies, and here's my sci-fi story. I mean, it got big real fast. But I was just interested to pitch that to you, Matt, because I know you're going to go into probably the more credible of the remote viewing, not an anonymous book that was only 20 pages that I paid $3 for on Kindle. You know, that's what this book was. This book was like the most poorly written. It was like someone just put their notes on paper and then uploaded it to Amazon with the shittiest like title ever. But I still appreciate it. It read like notes. It reads like someone who was really doing it. You know what I mean? Whether it's all bullshit.
Probably. Well,
Here's
the
goes
thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it. Finish it off.
No, I just want to say, I don't know if anything in there lines up with what you're about to say. I purposely didn't study any of Ingo Swan's work on remote viewing the moon in particular, so I'm interested to see if any of this lines up. Probably not.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, basically, I think it sounds like one of the people from that book was Ingo Swan, and that was a lot. Well, actually, so Ingo Swan is, if you don't know who he is like very famous with the whole remote viewing thing. He was part of the whole CIA project that I can't remember right now, Star something or other. I forget what it was. Anyway, but so he worked with the CIA initially to look at Jupiter. And they were trying to get an idea through remote viewing of what the composition, makeup of the atmosphere and the planet itself was and all that sort of stuff. Pretty, when we're talking about aliens and civilizations and stuff, pretty mundane stuff. But it sounds a lot like one of the people from that book was describing some things that Ingo saw, or one of them was actually Ingo. So Ingo's an interesting character, to say the least. But his reputation as a remote viewer is pretty solid. Like, he doesn't. There's a lot of people who say they're remote viewers who sort of dive off the deep end into ridiculousness. And Ingo was very much about, look, this is not an exact science. You really have to discern what your imagination's throwing into what you're seeing and what you're picking up, and was sort of as scientific as he could possibly be in this thing. So anyway, 1998, he writes this book called Penetration. I'll give you a second. There you go. And
we didn't even say anything funny. We just laughed. We're so in 8th grade. Okay, all right. So
moist.
Penetration.
Yeah. Anyway, so Penetration, he writes in 1998, but it's a recount of his time back in 75 when he was asked by some shadowy government group to do a remote viewing of the dark side or the far side of the moon.
Shadowy group.
Shadowy group.
Hold on. Before we go any further, remote viewing, they specifically need a coordinates, though. They can't just be like, I want to see the moon, and then all of a sudden it appears. But that's the specific thing about people that can remote view and people who just say they remote view is they have an actual coordinates of a place they're supposed to go. And Ingo Swann is the one that perfected that, correct?
He is, yeah. So he, like you said, you're given coordinates, but you don't know anything about. You're just given a set of numbers, basically. You don't know anything about where that is, what we're doing. It's just a set of numbers, and you're supposed to concentrate on that. Based on the person who gave it to you, you're supposed to be able to read telepathically, whatever you want to call it, into where this is going, these coordinates. So, 75, after doing the Jupiter viewing for the CIA, Swann claims he was introduced to an unnamed shadow group through his CIA connections. Now, so he's sworn to secrecy before he actually makes contact with this group by the CIA, who says, don't ask these people any questions. They're just going to get you to do this thing, and you do the thing, and you get out. That's it. And they're just going to test your remote viewing capabilities. So the man from the shadowy group who he's put in contact with he's uses this code name Mr. Axelrod.
Oh, okay. This guy's a character.
Axelrod.
So wait,
Hit with the ladies.
The book is called Penetration, and the secret guy's name is Axelrod.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
I'll give you a couple seconds. Get it out of your system.
And the woman's name is Lady
Axelrod.
Luna.
Yeah. Luna. So anyway, Mr. Axelrod contacts Ingo and invites him to DC. So Ingo describes Axelrod, which is like the beginning of a porn, but he's like this male model. And he's also accompanied. Yeah, he's like this gorgeous, like, human being. I don't. It doesn't worry me which way Ingo swings, but he seems pretty taken with this fella. But so Axelrod is accompanied by another agent who closely resembles Axelrod, which is really interesting, right? Yeah.
His name is Piston.
Dirk Piston.
Middle name Thrust. Yeah. Dirk Thrust Piston.
Well done. So anyway, this other character and Axelrod, Swann nicknames them the Twins.
Oh,
Twins,
God.
Basil. Twins.
Swan.
Yeah. So
His
Ingo
first
Swann
assignment was,
nicknames them the Twins.
please remote view what's inside of my pants. All right, go on.
Oh, God.
God, I mean, even Ingo Swan's name sounds a little.
There's this crazy story in Penetration where he's at a supermarket and he sees this like gorgeous, sexy lady who's at the aisle like doing something, but she's like, this is 75, and she's like scantily dressed, and he's like